Okay, so today we are talking about the real meaning of forgiveness, not even just the meaning, everything about forgiveness. So if you have had trouble, if you need some tools to help let go of resentment in relationships or in family or at work, you're going to want to hear this. So I'm going to start by telling you that everything is actually happening for you. So even all those situations where, you know, this person has done this thing and they need this forgiveness from you, it is actually a benefit to you. Now, I know that there's so many options of right things. You could be like, how could that possibly be a benefit? Well, stay tuned and you'll hear why. So I'm going to give you a recent example here. So I was working with someone and had been told, you know, many things. Oh, this is what's going to happen, and blah blah blah. Anyway, so these things don't pan out, don't come to fruition, and this working relationship ends. So as I'm stepping away from this, and I had kind of, you know, had this realization one day. All of a sudden, was like, oh, weird, like the energy has shifted, and I'm very in tune with these kinds of things. So I'm noticing, you know, like this energy shift. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I tune into it and I get some insight, and it's like, okay, you know, this is not the thing anymore. So I'm like, okay, cool. So as I then, rather than resist stepping away, because I was really enjoying what it was that I was doing. It was really good. These things were really good. Rather than resist, it's like, okay, this thing is done, so I'm going to leave. And so the moment that the decision was made to step away, all of the sudden, I had this complete shift within myself where I had been restricted, and I didn't even quite realize to the extent that I had been restricting myself, right? Because, you know, other people can restrict us, but we can only, you know, we allow it or we don't, and I was allowing this. And so through my allowance of basically my freedom being taken away, I didn't understand, I didn't realize while I was in it just how energetically draining it is. Not to be able to just be yourself, right? You're almost like walking on eggshells of, okay, I can't, you know, do this. So you don't understand how much energy that it takes to have to be subvert, to not truly fully be yourself. So as I step away from this, all of a sudden this energy comes in, and I'm like, dang, wow, I have all this energy. But the most amazing thing was that the people in my life that are closest to me, all of a sudden, I also felt this surge of love for them. Like this love that, you know, had come out of nowhere upon my decision. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go into this. I got to see exactly what's happening here and why this is. And so, you know, of course, I go to ChatGPT, which, you know, I could have tuned in, but no, let's thank Chat for this one. So I go in, and Chat is like, well, you know, there's many options here of what could be happening, but the thing that actually stuck out to me was sometimes we don't realize how much of our energy is going to these other places and is distracting or taking away from what we're actually present in, from what's actually surrounding us. And I was like, okay, that's the thing. That's what it is. And so I could take, you know, some ending and make this into some terrible thing, but no, it's the most wonderful thing that could have happened because it has allowed this freedom. So anyways, I'm going to go into this. So I had to deal with the most horrible person I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. A narcissist, like to the max, textbook. So extreme, so extreme. And so I was having to deal with this person for, I would say, the majority of my life, about half of my life. But you know, when you're in something like that, you don't actually realize the extent of the effect that it's having on you, and you choose not to, or you wouldn't be able to survive. Right? So sometimes, you know, we stick out these relationships where people are toxic, or they're treating us terribly, or they're just like in general not really great people, but we put up with it for whatever reason, maybe for survival, maybe because we don't know any different, maybe because we're uncomfortable with having to change something. You know, there's a million reasons why it could be. So anyways, I was in this relationship forever, and then the end of it comes, And it was a huge end. It was a huge shock. It was a huge stab in the chest. It was a huge betrayal. And so I'm going through this, and what a terrible thing for however long. And I remember I was so distraught. I had a couple good friends during that time when this was happening, and I must have just been, I talked to them for sure every single day, and I'm sure I was repeating myself over and over of like, I don't know what to do, what do I do, I don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. So at the time, while this horrible, air quotes thing was happening, I'm thinking that the world is over, because my life, as I knew it, was completely over. Let's go forward, 6 months from there, I have the realization of the why that is behind it. And I mentioned the first story because I'm mentioning this now because I see that there's similar patterns that have played out, and I didn't even recognize this until literally yesterday, which of course you're hearing this way after I've filmed it. But anyway, so I'm having this realization of thinking, wow, okay, I was actually being suppressed where I was at. I was not free at all. I was walking on eggshells. All of these repeated patterns that then have presented themselves to me again to be like, hey, do you want this again? Like, is this what you want? That's the thing that you want? Are you going to say something this time? Are you going to stand up for yourself this time? Are you going to do something about it? Are you going to stay there and wait until there's something horrible that forces an ending, or are you going to choose it yourself? I was like, okay. So I'm seeing all of these things. So this makes it so easy. There's nothing to forgive. There never was. I was never bitter or angry about any of these things, with my recent situation here. But pointing out the patterns that were present makes it so much easier to see, like, hey man, this is all about me, right? This is for me. It is literally for me. To be to not learn the lessons again. I mean, I could choose to, I could stay, I could repeat it again and again and again and again. Most of us do this, but we're not doing this. So what I recognized here was that situation with my ex allowed me to be free, allowed me to no longer be spiritually suppressed, because I was actually suppressed. Like, this is not okay, you can't be this way. And we try to please the people that we're with, right? But it's not even that we're trying to please them, it's more that we are not wanting to cause a conflict. And if I feel a certain way, like, okay, I have these spiritual gifts and you're telling me I can't use them, what does that do to a person? Right? We don't want to cause conflict. I don't want there to be an issue. So I'm just not going to use these gifts that I have. But what has actually happened is that we now have an internal conflict. We are now fighting with ourselves. We don't want to fight with them. We don't want to cause a problem with them. So we're just going to battle ourselves, and we're going to be like, no, it's cool. Yeah, no, I guess it's cool. Yeah, no, I guess I just won't use that. No, I guess I'll just do everything but that. And we do these things to ourselves. Why do we do these things to ourselves? I hope that through me speaking about this, you're going to recognize patterns in your life as well, and that you're going to put an end to them today, like right now, because we ain't got no time anymore. So, okay, long story short, every person that I had in my life that at some point, they were the person who did this thing to me, right? That person did this to me. They betrayed me. They did this. They abused me. They did this. Every person that did something to me, I don't believe that at all now. I believe that they did it for me. And what a wonderful gift it was. Let's go back. Teenager with a man who was abusive to the point that he beat the crap out of me a few days before I had my baby when I was 16 years old, like covered in bruises. And at that time, right, you're 16, you're 16. End of story. You just don't know things. And so had that not happened, had that not transpired, would I have kept this person in my life who was abusing me in all the other ways as well? I might have. I would have, I have this child, what do I do? All of these things. But no, they pushed it to the point where that's the end of it. And this is what we do, right? We put up with things. The amount of abuse that we endure from other people is the amount of abuse that we put ourselves through. And at some point when we're like, oh, I wouldn't do that to myself, that's where the line has been drawn. that's where the things end. They cross the line, that's it, it's over. So what happened in this situation? I had an extremely abusive boyfriend, and so I break up with him. And I'm immediately free from him because I didn't need him, I didn't want him around, I didn't whatever. And I was kind of bitter towards this man, but not outwardly, and not even really inwardly. I was ignoring. Because if he would come, if his name would get mentioned, if it would anything, I would change the subject. We would not talk about that. I'd be like, we're not talking about this. End it. End of conversation. And that would be that. This goes on for 18 years. So, I'm not angry. I'm not anything. I've just ignored the problem. And therefore it's like, no, I'm fine. Right? So when we forgive somebody, it's not just, no, I'm fine, I've ignored this. No, there's actual genuine forgiveness. And the only way to get there is through deep understanding and compassion for that other person. And not only that, but being able to look at it and be like, wow, this was a necessary part of my journey. Man, I learned a lot. I leveled up from this. So how did this come about? I'm sitting there, and one day I just decided that it was the day. And it had been 18 years since I had seen this man last. And the amount of times that he had come into my head previous to that, I'm going to say maximum once a year. Literally maximum once a year. Maybe not even that. Like, I'm thinking, did I actually think about that man 18 times or that? Maybe. We got 1,000 billion trillion thoughts a day. Maybe. But it wasn't part of my thing. But yet, there was still this energy, this knowing that it was in the background. It's in the subconscious mind in there somewhere. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to forgive. So I sit there one day, and I'm meditating, and I'm like, okay, this is my intent, is forgiveness. And so I'm thinking about him, and I see his young self, his young child, and he was extremely abused when he was young, hence, his behavior. And so I'm seeing this little boy, and the pain and the suffering that he went through, and just immediately upon seeing it, forgiven, done, forgiven. Like, I get it. I know why you did that. You were afraid I was going to leave you, so you thought you'd be this way or whatever it was that you were thinking in your head. You're forgiven, man. And so upon forgiving him, not only did I feel better, because that was being carried in my energy system, just like any unforgiveness that you have, residing within you, it is actually residing within you, and you can feel it. And there was a study that was done, and people upon forgiveness could actually physically jump higher. Because we're actually carrying these things in our energy system. Like, when we replace things like that, we're replacing them with light. Hence, we actually feel lighter because we are actually lighter. More light, actually lighter. So yes, these heavy things are actually heavy things. We don't just refer to them as, oh, that's a heavy emotional thing. It's heavy, and the reason why we've labeled it that is because it's physically heavy, because we're physically carrying it around with us. So if there's any unforgiveness that you have, it's physical, and it's going to drain you. And if this has been going on for 20 years, you don't even know what it's like to not have it. You don't even know how much energy is on the other side of that because you haven't experienced it for 20 years. And as soon as you do, it's like getting your hair cut. Man, I get my hair cut, and all of a sudden your head feels so much lighter. You didn't even realize, though, at the time that your head was heavy from your hair, right? Because you were used to it. This is what I'm talking about. So I forgive this man, but I don't reach out to him and tell him, hey, I forgave you, or anything like that. I haven't talked to him in 18 years. However, a couple months later, he reaches out to me, and he says to me, hey, I really want to apologize to you because I treated you really horribly, terribly. And he goes on to tell me, whatever it was that he wanted to tell me, that he's really sorry for how he treated me. And I was like, cool, man, excellent. So, well received. I responded back, something short, like, cool, things are good. Yeah, thanks for that. Adios. Done. Now, the thing about this is, upon me forgiving him, he was then released as well. Because I didn't get a message for 18 freaking years, and then all of a sudden I forgive him, and then all of a sudden I get this message in. Why did I get this message? Well, first of all, now I'm open to it. Had he reached out beforehand, that would not have been a good move. It would not have been cool, because it would not have been well received. I would have been thinking, okay, he knows where I'm at, this and this, and I mean, this man owes me ridiculous amounts of money. I don't care. Like, he's never paid me one penny in my life, and he owes me all kinds of things, and I wouldn't have received this well. But when I got the message after I had forgiven him, I didn't feel any way about it. There was no yay, there was no oh, there was just nothing. It was like, oh wow, interesting, I got a message from this person. Wow, okay. And the wonderful thing about this was this helped me to understand the energetics of it. This is what I'm interested in, is wow, so I released that person, and I released that person with the intent of like, I want as good for him as I want for myself. I want him to gain this enlightenment so he can be wonderful and treat his family so good. Like, I want every good and wonderful thing for this person. Every good and wonderful thing. And upon me forgiving him and wanting this, it energetically released him as well, which I want. Because if we haven't truly forgiven somebody, then we don't want them to be released from that, right? So this is a good test of, do you actually want them to be released from that and to be free and to be as happy as you can be and all these things? Then you know that you've really, truly forgiven this person. So anyways, on to the next. This man is forgiven, totally cool. Then there's my father, which I'm not going to give any great detail about what type of a person that he was, but he needed to be forgiven. Well, he needed to be forgiven by me, by my sisters, he needed some forgiveness, this man. And so, same dealio. I'm sitting there, I was like, okay, well, today's his turn. And this took some effort. I'm telling you, this is not necessarily a one and done. I remember attempting to forgive him back when I was taking my hypnosis training over 10 freaking years ago, and her doing a session, and this is how you forgive, and coming out of it and being like, yeah, like that didn't work. Like I felt like slightly better, but no, like it didn't do the thing. And so this was like years that it took, because I'm still dealing with this person. Whereas the other person, I hadn't seen them in 18 years. There's nothing fresh. There's nothing new. I'm not dealing with them at all. This is just, that's old stuff. Whereas this is old stuff, this is present stuff, this is what the future going to be like, this is all the stuff. So it took some time. But around that same time that I had forgiven that ex-boyfriend of mine, same dealio. I sit there and I'm like trying to find forgiveness, and man, did I ever find it. Because I understood it on such a deep level. Now, how it came about with him was that I understood that this was completely karmic. I had seen a past life, and what's interesting about this is I've done so many past life sessions with people, and I've never seen this happen before. I had the same past life come up 6 freaking times. That does not happen unless something's not resolved and something needs to be seen there. So I'm working with my wonderful astrologist Gary, which if ever you guys need an astrologist, man, he's the best. He when I met him like 10 years ago, he'd already been teaching it for 40 years. Like, this man is amazing. So anyways, I'm at his house one time, and this past life comes up in the middle of our session. Like, things would get really interesting when I would be there with Gary. I remember I was sitting around his table one time, and I was like, dude, for real, your room is a teepee right now, and you're my grandpa, and you're teaching me things, and the room visibly actually changed around me. These mystical, magical things would happen when I'm with him. That doesn't happen to me, that specific thing only would happen when I was around this man. Obviously, we had some interesting connection. So this is happening, and I'm seeing this, and he's this native man, and we're in this teepee, and then this same past life that I had seen several times came up, and I was like, oh, this past life is coming up. And he's like, cool, I feel like you need to resolve this, and I can help you do that. And I'm like, excellent, man, because guess what? Gary's also a hypnotist. So they're on his living room floor. I lay down and I go into it deep. And I experienced and went back and basically relived that section of that life. And what I understood was that something had been done to my family, and I got revenge. And the man who had done that thing to my family was my father in this life. So I get revenge on his family. Terrible thing I did. And the end of the story is I die, and I go up and I ascend. And so he's like, okay, cool. So what happens after you ascend? And I see myself with that man there, the man who I got revenge on, the one who had harmed my family, blah, blah, blah. And we go up, and both of us have this realization of, this was about forgiveness. Well, great. Now we got to go do it again, which I'm sure that we've all done that about 1,000,000 times. So anyways, we realize, okay, this is about forgiveness, but what happened through that knowing was, okay, Well, how would forgiveness come about? How could we get the lesson of forgiveness? Well, it would be impossible to get it if there was nothing to forgive. Therefore, something had to be done that would need to be forgiven. This is what they mean by, there's actually nothing to forgive. This is a gift. Like, you came here to learn how to forgive. Okay, well, somebody's going to have to do something to you so that you're going to have to forgive them, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be something that's going to be difficult to forgive, because otherwise, where's the lesson in that? So even just realizing that was like, dang, okay, of course I can forgive. Thank you. Plus, I look at my life and I look at all the things that happened, the type of teenager that I was, the type of young adult that I was, all of these things, thank you to my father, was played out. How I lived my life was because of him. And I realized, had he not been who he was, I wouldn't be who I am. And so all of these things that happened had to happen, and they needed to happen the way that they happened for me to be me today. And thank you, because I'm really happy with who I am today, and I wouldn't be me had all of these things not played out. Nothing to forgive. Then we move forward. End up with a husband who, betrays me. And through this process of literally, like, the worst thing in my life, like, I wanted to die. I've never, I wanted to die because I didn't know how I could get past it. And I didn't know what was going to come next. And I was so heartbroken and so distraught and so just like, it was the worst experience I've gone through in my life. And through going through that, I came to a point where I had to heal. It was not optional. I had to. It was either die or heal. So I go and I heal, and I go on a spiritual retreat, and I go for several weeks. And my intent was to forgive him and gain enlightenment. And that was exactly what happened. It was exactly what happened. And so I go up there and I understood, and I saw past lives, and I saw these things that made all the things make sense. But what was actually happening was this was happening for me because he was a spiritual suppressor. And how am I supposed to live out my life's work and live my purpose if I am with someone who is actually having their foot on my head saying, no, you can't do that thing that you're supposed to do. Can't do the thing you want to do because your heart's pulling you and you're desiring it and you want it more than anything else, and it's literally the only thing that you think about 24/7, spiritual stuff. Yeah, you can't do that thing. Well, what favor was I doing by being with this man for nearly it was over 20 years? What favors was I doing for myself? Well, at the time I was doing a lot. I was learning a lot. I was raising my children. I was gaining all kinds of knowledge and wisdom and all the things that I needed, so that when the point came that he was going to betray me, because I believe that this was totally predestined to happen exactly as it did, the point when he came and when this happened and this horrible thing happened, and then I'm going through this dark night of the soul, and then on the other side of that is pure light. And the difference was suffering one day, illumination, no more suffering after that. Just that fast, just like that. And then realizing none of this would have happened for me had I not been suffering so grievously. I wouldn't have had to do any inner work had I not been suffering so grievously. Had my life just been all sunshine, roses, and butterflies, why would I have ever needed to internally reflect or look inside of myself or do any kind of healing or do any kind of spiritual seeking? Because I would have felt like I had everything that I needed. So it was truly the gift. So what do I think of when I think of him now? And I'm still having to deal with this man. Still having to deal with this man. And what he is doing right now is by far the worst thing that he's ever done. Because he's doing something to my daughter. But even this, I'm looking at this as I know that this is a gift. I know it's a gift, even this behavior, whatever it is that he's doing right now, I know that it is, and so I forgive him because he actually doesn't know what he's doing. And let's say that he did know what he was doing, and then he was illuminated, and then that changed things for him. Well, then maybe this is going to be the catalyst that's going to make him change his life, because the divine told me when I was leaving, at some point in his life he does gain enlightenment. And I'm like, frickin' rights, man. So what happened for me to gain that was I had to go through actual hell. And so at some point he's going to have to go through actual hell too. And so when that happens for him, because karma's real, and when that happens for him, I hope he makes it through it so that he can get through it on the other side. So this is why if somebody is feeling like, oh, I'm suicidal, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, I have so much compassion for that. I understand it. I've talked people out of these things before. However, I understand too that I've been there, man, and it was through the suffering that the most blessed, wonderful goodness came out on the other side. And so even something like this, even something that is so grievous and that is like, oh, you know, you want to end your life, you want to whatever, perfect, that's the exact place that you need to be. Don't do it, but go into it and say, I have to heal this. There is not an option, because me ending my life is not an option, because you're just going to have to come back and freaking do it all over again. Heal it and get into it and go in so deep with the intent of, I'm going to ask the divine to illuminate me in some way so that I can forgive what it is that I need to forgive, so that I can set myself free and so that I can set this other person free. Now, here's an exercise. So let's say that you got somebody to forgive and you haven't got all these deep insights yet. First of all, go to the Mental Cleanse series that I have. It's a playlist on this channel, and there's one called Past Life Regression. Go into it, listen to it, do it with the intent of whatever past life you have with that person that is going to illuminate something for you, make you aware of something that you need to know about karma and that you need to know about how things play out. Go into it with the intent of seeing that past life. That could be very helpful for you. Second thing, this is a subconscious wound, because anytime that you think about that person, your body tenses up and tightens up and you get this feeling of anger. We need to get to the actual root of it. So follow that physical sensation that you have in your body when you think about that person, and the anger or the grief or the sadness or the whatever it is, fear, that they invoke in you, whatever it is, feel that feeling and notice the places that you feel tension in your body. Notice the places that you feel like your body stress out and tighten up, and try to push that feeling away. That's what's happening. And so as you tune into that feeling, close your eyes, take yourself back to the beginning of it. Where's the root of it? And if you're like, I can't do that, I don't know, then you're right, you can't do it and you don't know. But go into it with the intent of course, the divine wants to free me from this, and so of course I'm going to have something come, and of course I'm going to be able to find the root of it, and then go into it, and go into it really calm, breathe, bring up that feeling, follow that feeling back, and go to the root. Where did this begin? What is this actually about? And when you get to the root, so you'll be seeing a scene, you'll be thinking a thought, you'll be doing something, bring your present day self into that scene with that younger version of yourself, and your present day self now, go and ask that younger version, hey man, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And they will tell you. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, well, you know what? You know them best because they're you. What could you do for them to make them feel better? And do that for them. Do that. Next thing you could do, imagine yourself, same thing, put yourself into somewhat of a meditative state, but you close your eyes and you imagine this person, and you put a bench in front of you, and you put them on that bench, and they can't say anything to you. And then you're just going to tell them off. You're going to be like, hey man, you're doing this to me, you did that to me, like I'm so mad at you for this, and blah, 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 and you're going to tell them off, and then you're going to let them respond and see how they respond back to you. Now, depending on their response, because sometimes you're dealing with, extreme narcissists, and they're not going to see it, and some people don't get it, and some people do. I would say 90% of the people get it, but about 10% of them still have their attitude when you do an exercise like this. So then, if they got the attitude, then you're going to take a TV. This is imagery. You're going to take a TV, you're going to hook it up to them with some electrodes. You're going to play the tape of your life, and you're going to play for them how it is that they affected you and what it is that they did. And as you watch them watch that tape, you're just watching them watch the story of your life. They're going to feel it, they're going to experience it, and then you're going to see how they react to it this time. And then when you see their response, then you're going to let them say whatever they need to say to you, and you're going to say whatever it is that you need to say back. Now, the purpose and the point of this is that we hold so many things inside of us. And sometimes you're never going to get an apology. From certain people, you'll just never get it, but you don't need it. You don't need it, because there's actually nothing to forgive. And when you get to the point where you realize, oh, there's actually nothing to forgive, you're going to be totally set free. But up until you get to that point, these few exercises can be so extremely beneficial, because they're going to take you from being in a state of tightness and tension and to a state of calm and to a state of ease. And so as you do these little things, then you're going to ask in a state of meditation, please show me the learning that I gained from this, and please show me how my life would be different right now if I didn't go through that. And you're going to realize many things about yourself. And going through all these things that we go through, so we learn so many things about ourselves. Well, we learn that people can't walk on us, right? We need to set up boundaries, and we need to actually speak up for ourselves. And it's so easy to swallow it, to choke it down, to not say anything, to walk away and just ignore it. But that's not helping us, because it leaves us feeling, oh, something unsaid. Oh, we should have done this. Oh, we should have done that. So it teaches us. It makes us more powerful, and it makes us more compassionate, and it makes us more understanding. When you can forgive the difficult people, man, you can do freaking anything. So start with the little ones. So this is what I did when I very first began working with forgiveness. I forgave my dog, because my dog Honey, I used to do nails at my house 8 years ago. And so I'm sitting like at the kitchen table, and we're right at the corner, and it's right by my deck door. And so my dog would go in and out of the house 750 million times in one set of nails. And this is purely attention based, right? I got somebody in the house, oh, she's not getting the attention. Okay, I'm going to go out and then turn around and stand there. Now I want back in. Now I'm going to turn around and stand and want back out, and back and forth and back and forth. And you know, why didn't I leave the door open? It's freaking Canada, man. Anyways, so I was like, I'm going to start with my dog. So I'm like, okay, because I was annoyed with her, right? I'm not mean to the dog or anything like this, but it's just annoying having to open the door so many times and all the things. So it's like, here's an easy one. So I go in, I close my eyes, and I'm like thinking about my dog Honey, and it's like, you're the only one she has. It's like, oh, I am the only one she has. The only thing that she requires is, you know, food and water, and you're the only one that can give that to her. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. She doesn't socialize. The only people that she really has is you. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's true. And it was me just seeing all these little things and developing so much compassion for my dog that after that, she didn't do the door thing anymore. It was like it was just needed so that I could see that, so that I could love my dog even more. And I mean, I loved her. She was my dog. But there was just like a lesson that was in it. And so easy to forgive a dog, right? So maybe there's somebody else that you could forgive. Maybe somebody was, you know, rude to you when you were out. Maybe somebody was rude in traffic. You don't even know who they are, but you're thinking about them and you're like, what a dick. And, you know, that's not helpful. So start with these little things and do the little things, because then the bigger things get easier. But the biggest thing about forgiveness is self-forgiveness. And when we can forgive ourselves, because we're so mean to ourselves compared to what we would be to other people, you know, on the outside, when we can forgive ourselves, that makes things a whole lot easier too. And so if you're mad at yourself, you know, if you feel like you need forgiveness, which, you know, you might think, oh, no, I don't. But once you get in there in meditation, yeah, you probably do. Same thing, go and put yourself on that bench across from yourself and tell yourself off, like, how dare you allow people to walk on you? How dare you be so naive and believe things that people tell you when you knew better? All the things, whatever it is that you need to say to yourself, tell yourself off. I know it sounds mean, but it's not, because through doing that, you're then going to be yourself, and you're going to respond, and you're going to be like, oh man, dude, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize I was doing this. And you're going to come to an agreement with yourself, and to a joint effort with yourself, because often we're fighting ourselves, right? You don't stand up for yourself, you don't say something, well, now you have an internal battle. You're fighting yourself. And why do we do this? We don't need to do this. We shouldn't do this. It's not helpful to anybody. And so as we can understand, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be on your team from now on. You're going to be my best friend, because you live in my brain, you live in my body, and you might as well be my best friend. And as you come to that realization of, man, I really got to do what's good for me, it's going to change things for you in such a positive, wonderful way. And what's going to happen is you're going to be emitting more love from your being, rather than tension or resentment or frustration or all the things, unforgiveness, whatever it is. And you're going to attract more love into your life, rather than more things to resent, things to forgive, anger, sadness, all the things. Anyways, this is what I got for you guys here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love you all so much. If you know a friend or somebody that's like needing some forgiveness for somebody, please go ahead and share this with them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.